Where we get closer and closer to the start of NFL training camps. Still a lot of situations to play out for the Steelers. They don't expect TJ Watt to hold out despite continuing contract talks for him. But what's next in this saga? For much more on this, let's go ahead and welcome in Tyler Sullivan to the show. Tyler, it's always great to see you. TJ Watt still without a contract extension. How do you think this all ends? Will the Steelers extend him or potentially trade him?
Yeah, I think they ultimately come to some sort of an agreement. I just can't fathom an offseason for the Pittsburgh Steelers where they go all in, getting Aaron Rodgers, signing him as a free agent to be their starting quarterback, trading for Jalen Ramsey and Jonnu Smith, then to go and trade away TJ Watt, the heart and soul of your organization, your defense, one of the best defensive players in the NFL, for a team that's trying to compete in the here and now. To me, that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, the question will be, what is TJ Watt looking for? Because right now, when he signed his deal, the one that's expiring at the end of this season, he was the highest paid defensive player in the NFL at the time of signing. Is he trying to do that again? Is he trying to either match or unseat Myles Garrett, who's making $40 million per season? If he's trying to do that, that's a much different conversation for the Pittsburgh Steelers front office. Now, if he's trying to kind of just get to a more respectable rate, that changes the conversation as well. Right now, he's making $28 million in AAV. There's about 6 other players making 30 or more. I think that if he gets into the $35 million per year range, that puts him in the same breath as Danielle Hunter and Max Crosby, 2 guys that signed extensions this offseason. I think that makes a lot of sense for both sides. But again, we'll see what Watt's mindset is.
I love how you detailed all that out for us because, Watt, as you mentioned, the heart and soul of that team. One guy who is also looking for a contract extension is Commander's Terry McLaurin. Also the heart and soul of his team in D.C. and this fan base so loved. His name has been linked to TJ Watt in trade rumors. Is this something, though, Tyler, we should give life to?
Yeah, what's the deal with all of these teams? All of a sudden, you don't want good players anymore? Like, this is crazy to me. And this one in particular is the one that has me scratching my head the most, because Terry McLaurin, as you referenced, heart and soul of an organization, really a leader through a lot of trying times with this organization. And finally, they're starting to be on the come up. You find Jayden Daniels with the number 2 overall pick. He leads you to the NFC Championship game. And Terry McLaurin was a huge factor in all of this. He had a career-high 13 touchdowns a season ago. He caught 70% of his targets last season, which were also a career high. I just don't understand why you would want to move off of a player, or at least kind of, not be willing to go all in on a receiver that is clearly your number 1 option when you have a quarterback like Jayden Daniels on his rookie deal. So to me, this is extremely confusing, but I do think that you ultimately have to get something done, because like it or not, for the Commanders, you're thrust open a Super Bowl window. You were in the NFL's Final Four a year ago because you found and struck gold in Jayden Daniels. So I ultimately believe that something gets done here. It's just a matter of how long does this thing progress, because again, you don't want to have any bumps along the way when you're trying to usher in and still establish this new culture that you've established over the last year.
Yeah, make this all make sense for us, because as you said, it's very, very confusing. Not panicking at this point for as a Commanders fan. McLaurin and the Commanders, as we know, are hoping to get a deal done before the start of training camp. That's on July 22nd. However, he skipped all offseason workouts with the Commanders to this point. I'm still not reading too much into that. However, we're still monitoring this situation over the next week. How ultimately do you see this ending?
Yeah, I do think that they come to some sort of agreement. Again, like I said, they have a quarterback on his rookie deal. You have the financial flexibility, but similar to what we were talking about with TJ Watt, what's the kind of contract that Terry McLaurin is looking for? One that I think makes a lot of sense is if he mirrors something similar to what the Pittsburgh Steelers did with DK Metcalf after they acquired him. Yes, Terry McLaurin's a little bit older than DK Metcalf, but you're still looking at somewhere in the range of $33 million in average annual salary, $30 million per season is kind of the going rate for a #1 wide receiver in the NFL. You have Jamar Chase topping the entire market, a little over $40 million per season. You look at what Terry McLaurin was previously making, $22.8 million in AAV. He deserves to be in that conversation, in that tier of elite wide receivers in the NFL, which is, again, in that $30 million, $33 million per year rate. So I do think it ultimately gets done. It's just crazy that it hasn't happened already.
Yeah, a crazy waiting game for Commanders fans who hope that McLaurin stays in D.C. to help to keep them competitive in the NFC East. Elsewhere in the AFC East, can anyone dethrone the Bills in the AFC East, who are looking to win their division for the 6th consecutive season, Tyler?
Well, the short answer is no, right? I mean, obviously, you have the MVP in Josh Allen. You see the odds right here, -260. That's actually the steepest odds of any division in the NFL. The Bills are the biggest favorite out of any division favorite in the NFL. So the odds makers are telling you that this is the Bills division, and it has been for the last half decade or so. But if there were situations where teams in this division could rival them, possibly overtake them, I would first look at the New England Patriots, the second best odds to win the division at +500. My biggest question will be, what does Drake May now look like with an improved roster and coaching staff around him? He showed promise during his rookie season, but overall it was a forgetful year in Foxborough. But now you bring in Mike Vrabel as your head coach, which I think raises the overall floor of this organization. You added a lot of great pieces on defense, which I believe puts them in the conversation of maybe having a top 5, certainly a top 10 defense in the NFL. And then what do you get from Stephon Diggs and the added weapons on the offensive line? So how does Drake May make all of this work? That's my big question. And then another team in the division that's kind of in a similar boat to me is the New York Jets. I think that they have a similar top 5 defense potentially in the NFL. You bring in Aaron Glenn, who's a defensive-minded head coach coming from Detroit. The big question will be, what is Justin Fields? Is Justin Fields going to be the latest late bloomer that we've seen in the NFL, whether it was Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, or Sam Darnold last season? If Justin Fields can follow in those footsteps and actually solidify himself in the NFL, well, then you're talking about a team with stable quarterback play and a top 5 defense. That makes you frisky in any division.
But the short answer, just no. Hard no. All right, moving on here. Last but certainly not least, obviously we get closer and closer to the start. Tyler, let's get you some updated HQ headlines. Browns rookie running back Quinshon Judkins was arrested last night on a charge of domestic battery and violence, according to police in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A spokesperson for the Browns said the team is, quote, aware and gathering more details, end quote. Judkins was selected in the 2nd round of the NFL draft. He is yet to sign his rookie contract.
This is on the other side of the ball. Graz, what's the latest on some pass rusher contract disputes? Let's start with Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals still at an impasse regarding a contract extension. He has publicly said he does not intend to play on his current contract. The Bengals have offered him a short-term extension. He would like a longer-term extension with more guaranteed money in future years. He's 30 years old. Bengals are hesitant to do that. We'll see if this picks up again as we get closer to camp. Obviously, the Bengals would like to have him there and working. Same with the Steelers and T.J. Watt, another 30-year-old edge rusher who wants a contract extension and doesn't have one. He has not been public about any displeasure, but he did skip mandatory minicamp, and that's obviously a sign that things aren't all okay. When he signed his last contract extension 4 years ago, it took all the way up until September 9th. So if you're expecting a quick resolution here, you may be disappointed. And then Micah Parsons with the Cowboys, likely to come in ahead of everybody and probably be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league when his extension finally gets done. Things seem to be in a pretty good place there. He was at their mandatory minicamp and had participated in parts of their voluntary offseason program. So no reason to think that this won't get done, and no reason to think that he would hold out of any part of training camp, considering he's already been to stuff he didn't even have to go to, and he doesn't have the deal done yet. But watch for Parsons to come in ahead of everybody in the league who isn't a quarterback.
Yeah, no doubt that's resetting the market. That training camp for the Cowboys in Oxnard starts in 12 days. Now, a new article out on ESPN.com this morning. Jeremy Fowler polled NFL executives, scouts, and coaches in order to rank the top 10 players at each position. So today we're going to look at the league's top edge rushers. pertinent based on some of the guys we were just talking about. The AFC North has the top 2 on the list, with Myles Garrett ranking first for the 2nd straight year, followed by T.J. Watt. The Texans, the only team to have 2 players in the top 10, Will Anderson Jr. and Danielle Hunter. And then Micah Parsons, Max Crosby, and Nick Bosa find themselves in the top 5 again. Patrick Mahomes had some high praise regarding division rival Crosby earlier this week.
He's the best. I mean, I think he sacked me the most out of anyone I've ever played against.
Oh,
so
really?
I mean, to me, he's the best pass rusher that I've played against. And so, no offense to any other pass rusher, just putting it out there. But he is the best one that I've put up against because he goes out there and he gives you the effort, he has the moves, and he has the skill. And I think it's hard to have all 3 of those and do that a year in and year out.
The other thing Mahomes has said sometimes when we've met with him before games is that Crosby is one of the biggest trash talkers too. So that may have been a little reason why he picked him there. Okay, Boog, it sounds like Mahomes disagreed a little bit with that list that you just saw. How about you? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I disagree with it. And let me preface by saying this. When you're choosing from the top 4 or 5 pass rushers in football, it's kind of like choosing how do you want your filet. Some people like theirs rare. Some people like it medium well. I need mine well done. Judge me if you want to. That's on you, not on me. As far as the pass rush is concerned, to me, it's got to be Max Crosby. I think when you look at the skill, you look at the effort, you look at the technique, you look at the moves, nobody does it better. Yes, T.J. Watt looks differently. Yes, Myles Garrett is more of a power guy. Micah Parsons may have a little bit more athleticism, but when you combine everything together, for me, Max Crosby is the best pure pass rusher in football, and there's no way, I mean no other way to eat a filet than well done.
Hey, really fast, Boog, I'm going to have you come over. All right, I'm going to sear your filet really nice, a nice little pepper crust on it. I'll do it medium well for you, even though that's like a little bit off what I would normally do because it should be medium rare, but you're going to change your mind, okay? You must just had some bad steaks in the past. You're wrong about well done.
Not changing my mind, Laura. I promise you I'm not changing my mind.
D-Wood, go ahead.
Boog, you might as well be burning the steak at this point. I mean, well done. Come on, bro. We got to work on that. But here's what I'm gonna say, man. I think the reason that Mahomes has so much admiration for Max Crosby is where he's rushing from. Think about it. Boog knows this. He's rushing up on the defensive left. He's going up against the right tackle, meaning he's rushing right in Mahomes' face, and he still is able to cause havoc on a guy like Patrick Mahomes. But Boog is right. He's so versatile. He's a guy that he's a movable chess piece. He has